Okay, so we picked the article calcium and vitamin D deficiency marginally impairs fracture healing but aggravates post-traumatic bone loss in osteoporotic mice. I'm Trinity, by the way.
I'm Natalie.
I'm Anna. Caitlin.
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you.
Alright, so what did y'all think about the way that they tested the mice, like with the control groups, like involving the one control group and then the two different deficient diets but one with the supplement? What do you guys think that was like the effect on the trials?
I mean, I thought it was interesting. I liked the figures they put, and I would just call them pictures, but especially with the ones that not more of like the charts, but more of the pictures and like the microscopic stuff. I like to see the difference in like how close the control group and how close the supplemented group was, and like how different the deficient group was.
Yeah, I thought the pictures were almost more helpful than like the bar charts or
I would get confused.
all the numbers and everything, because that's helpful, but you can't see physically what kind of the effect is. Especially on page 5 where they have like those 9 pictures.
Mm-hmm.
That was really interesting to look at because it wasn't just numbers, but it was physical evidence of the experiment that they did and everything.
What kind of conclusions or like observations did you observe in the photos?
The first thing that stood out to me was how consistent each one of them was.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in a lot of articles that you read, it kind of gets confusing because there isn't a lot of consistency.
Like jumping around between
Yes,
topics.
where one is, or you have a lot of outliers or something like that. But I thought in this one it was really consistent, especially in, I'm forgetting which.
I especially like the last group of pictures. Right, those is what I was saying.
Yeah, that's what I was
saying. Because I mean, to be
great
honest,
to look at.
am I looking at the actual fractured bone, or like what, or like the calcium around it, or something like that? But you can definitely, even if I didn't know what it was, you can still see the differences highly more than you might when I would say like the microscopic, because I'm like, okay, so what is that?
I think that in those, especially like in the graphs A on page 8, I think they were looking at the lumbar vertebrae. That specific part of the mice.
Mm-hmm. So they would be looking at like the spine in those pictures.
Yeah, and how it like affected it in that way with the deficiencies.
And it says it's 3D too,
Right.
which is hard to convey on a flat piece of 2D piece of paper. So yeah, that does make it a little difficult. And there was 2 sets of these too. I think there was one at the beginning. I could be wrong. Oh yeah, on page 3.
Yeah.
Kind of a similar
picture
that shows the control, the deficient.
And that one you can really see the difference.
Yeah.
Yes, that one was good.
So the study talked a lot about like older menopausal age women, like 50 and older, I think it said.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, usually women that are 50 and older who are like most susceptible to osteoporosis and being vitamin D and calcium deficient. Did you guys think like did you guys think there's like a specific reason why their diet would be less vitamin D heavy or less calcium heavy, or because I was just wondering.
Yeah, I was wondering.
What was
That wasn't the first. Like, if I had to put an example, that was not the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, my mom's on the older side, and she was feeling very like lethargic a lot, and she went to the doctor, and she was like, "Why am I feeling this way?" And it has to do something with the fact that you aren't getting all of those things from like estrogen and all of that from your period. That it takes away some of those aspects. So that might have to be like you're getting something from having that, and once you take it away, like all those like nutrients, even though we're in a lot of pain, and the nutrients and stuff that we do get from it, you might just be out of it, and so that's why you might take more supplements when you get older and like all that kind of thing. So it might be the same way to that. But I definitely didn't think that like immediately, like, oh yeah, women over this age, totally, their bones, they don't work anymore. So. And then I think it has to do a little bit with like how older people, like how they have so much trouble with bones and all that kind of stuff as they get older. That might also have to do with it.
Like,
especially like arthritis.
Right.
Like I feel like that may be correlated in some way.
Yeah.
Especially with the deficiencies talked about.
Yeah, and obviously like they were testing like the mice with like osteoporosis or whatever, and so that's what like a lot of the older women have compared to like the kids who have rich calcium diets and
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
vitamin
yeah.
D to help, like we were talking about in class, like to absorb that calcium. Like you can't absorb calcium without the vitamin D. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So actually, I have written down here that
Excuse me.
like I was just thought it was crazy how much like the supplements like actually like helped with the reabsorption and like making it like if you look at kind of like the picture, like it looks very similar to the, like the broken bone. I just thought it was weird that the supplements could do that, but do you think like if you break a bone and then you start taking supplements it's better, or just like if you're taking supplements and then like you break a bone it'll be better for your overall health? Do you think it'll make that much of a difference?
Well, I think that it would be better if you're taking them before, but I do feel like if you do start them like as you're in the healing process, it would definitely be helpful because like something is better than nothing.
Right.
And I've been like on this journey to start like taking vitamins and supplements.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I'm like a really picky eater,
You're
so I'm
better
like,
than I am.
and also my dad and my grandma are both arthritic, so it's just like I need to be proactive. And it was really interesting that we like picked this article because it's kind of like it applies to me. But
I don't know. I'm really bad about like if it's like if I'm like, oh, I want to take all these things to make myself feel better, but it's like a whole board of pills.
yeah,
I'm really bad at like taking that whole handful every single day.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's never too late because you know supplements and stuff like this article prove that like it prevents post-traumatic bone loss and improves your healing overall.
Yeah.
So I think it's never too late to take those vitamins, especially as you get older. And clearly, since we're all women here, maybe we will.
I know we need to like actually think about it.
So, just not letting that become a more of a risk. You know, preventing it from a young age.
I mean, and like for helping ourselves, and I know we're all like going into a profession like to help other people, so like helping with osteoporosis management, like just general post-fracture care, like it's not just like you said, it's not just from the fracture, it's also like like as you get older you have weaker bones just because of the decreased activity with the osteoblasts. But
I also think it's really good that they did this so that like public health people will work on making sure that everybody stays healthy, can like make more women aware of the risk that they are at of having osteoporosis or being more susceptible to having a harder time recovering from fractures, especially at an older age where it's already harder to heal. So I definitely think it was very good that they decided to do this study because in here it says that like nobody really did it before now.
Right, there wasn't a lot of like information about it.
Yeah, so I definitely think it's really important that, and I'm glad that they did, so you know they can put out that information for people to.
I think it's also good for us to like read this at our age because I don't know about y'all, but I played sports in high school at least, and so it's really like, especially if you go from that to like working out more in college, like you're gonna want to know this information because even if you're not doing like actual physical sports on a daily basis like you were, you're still gonna be working out and you still have that like susceptibility to do something possibly wrong or something to happen, an injury to happen, and this could help.
Do you guys want to kind of talk about just like the overall study that they did?
Sure.
Like how they, obviously how they somehow found these calcium and vitamin Ds. So what did you guys think? Like how do you think they got to the conclusion that we should start by like how do you say that word? Like ovariectomy?
Oh right, when they did it with
like
more
what do you
those
think?
lines.
Yeah, what do you think the scientists like background knowledge was? Like how do you think they got to that kind of point of view?
I think maybe they were trying to like emulate the women's like lack of a period, I guess, or like all the things involved with menstruation. I think they're kind of trying to emulate that in the mice, so that it would be kind of like more specified because they're talking about like menopausal women. So I think it was trying to, make that connection so it wouldn't be a more generalized study, but more specifically for those women that are more susceptible. I definitely wonder like how did they like dwindle down to specifically that group of people? Like, was there like a trend that someone noticed in like patients that were experiencing harder times recovering from fractures, or like was there somebody's family member who,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know about the author. I didn't really like look and see if I could find a name or whatever, but maybe they were like a doctor themselves and maybe worked with older women and they were like, this is something that I've been treating for a while. Why? And then got with like their colleagues and thought about it. I just looked up the word that you were talking about earlier. I'm not gonna try to butcher it. But it basically was like female like rats and mouse that like their ovaries have been removed. So I guess that's like can be considered something that women do have. So I don't know. Maybe they were like it could be a similar aspect, and so they were like maybe we'll see if it changes anything.
On the first page, they give a few different statistics, and one of them that I had highlighted was it is estimated that approximately 3 billion people worldwide display vitamin D deficiency, which I thought was just really interesting because that's a lot of people, and there's what, like 8 billion people?
It's got to be
in
something
the
like that.
world?
Yeah.
And 8 billion?
I think
I
so.
feel like we hit
within
it a
the
while
past
ago.
few years,
Yeah.
I think it got 8 billion. Yeah,
That's crazy.
moved up from 7. More billion people.
8.2 billion actually.
8.2.
See, I knew it was something. Yeah.
And 3 billion
a lot
of
of
them
babies.
display vitamin D deficiency,
Right.
which is so crazy because if they have a vitamin D deficiency, they most likely have a calcium deficiency as well, since those two kind of go together, like we read about in the chapter and everything about bone health and that kind of thing. But especially because we were talking about how it's so difficult to take those pills or to remember to take those supplements because they're those nutrients that you have to take supplements for or get them out of your diet, that kind of thing. Your body doesn't naturally produce them and you need them in certain amounts. But that kind of made me think about, okay, that's a lot of the world. And those are just the people that is just estimated.
Right.
It could be even
like
more.
during the time of
During the time. And this was,
Which was
what,
2017?
2017?
Yeah.
And
So who knows how many more?
who knows how much more
Yeah.
that would go up. That just kind of put it into perspective a little bit for me. And that's just vitamin D deficiency.
Yeah.
That's not even other deficiencies, which is kind of mind-blowing.
No, it brings up a question in my mind. It was like, what is the diet of the pregnant person that makes that many people vitamin D deficient? Like, was the mom vitamin D deficient as well, or like stuff with the dad as well?
Is it
Like
genetic?
generational? Or?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I don't know, because I mean that many people, obviously it may or may not come from your parents.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, that makes me think of another question too, is culturally their different diets. I mean, America eats completely different than
The rest of the world.
the rest of the world completely. America's in its own category.
Right.
But even just places that live in poverty too, they don't have the access or the money to be able to get those supplements or the diets that have everything, but also just the difference in diets, like Mediterranean or like that kind of thing. They eat completely differently than someone in Uganda or Haiti or Tanzania would eat. That's completely different. And then the same as like the Philippines, like they're gonna eat different too, that kind of thing. And that I think would play a role in the amount of people too that would have those deficiencies.
Do you think that like over the course of like the years, like obviously things are a lot different. People have obviously, like you said, diets have changed. Like we were talking about how probably way more people have like that deficiency, do you think education has something to do with that at all? Because
Education about diet
like,
or education?
Yeah, and about like supplements. Like, I'm gonna be honest, guys, like I did not know a lot about supplements before reading this article, so I did a lot of research. But like just like diets are different. Like it's customary now, like you were saying, there are different diets people know, but there's like, oh, keto when you're not getting the nutrients that you need in certain ways, or like just
vegetarian.
Yeah, exactly. Like people are just getting. Do you think education has a lot to do with any of the deficiency at all, or is it just diet? Or
I think it plays. Sorry, I think it plays a role because you know, a lot of us are able to take like nutrition classes, or from a young age we learn like eat your carbs, eat your like proteins. Yeah. Like I learned that in like maybe 4th grade.
Right.
And there's other countries, like I have cousins in Europe, and they have. I don't think they've learned about that. Maybe
question, what part of Europe?
Do you know where Croatia is?
I've heard of it. That's pretty cool.
I'm part Croatian. So.
That's cool.
Anyway. But yeah, like I just feel like it definitely depends on education, because some of us were not able to grow up and like learn what a balanced diet is. And also I think poverty plays a role in that. Like sometimes if you're in a situation where you can't get all the nutrients you need and stuff, you're obviously just going to eat what you get. And that's not going to be like, you're not going to be like, oh, I need my calcium today. Like you're just going to eat whatever you can at that point.
Yeah.
So I definitely think education, as well as like your kind of like location in the world, or like your situation, plays a lot in what kind of supplements you put in your body.
I definitely also agree with that, because in the article it says like a lot of people who experience fractures are undiagnosed with osteoporosis, so it's like you didn't even know that you were vitamin D or calcium deficient. So it's also about like people having access to healthcare to find out, oh hey, maybe I do need to start taking these supplements or implementing something like diet or something like that. So I would definitely say that it is definitely education as well as like environment. And it also says that 80 to 90% of patients do not receive adequate treatment. So I think maybe having done this research and now knowing better, it might be something that they can incorporate into teaching. I don't know, really any medical professional, like, hey, these are the signs to look for. Hey, this is what you need to do if you find someone who is vitamin D or calcium deficient. Like I feel like it kind of has to be like a universal effort to, because 3 million people in 2017. So I do think it kind of has to be like everybody plays their part in improving those numbers, because that's kind of horrible.
Yeah, especially as future physicians.
Yeah, I think it helps with like us knowing this now and then going into those career fields, because a lot of people are wanting to like send others to those places and like mission trips and all of that, sending healthcare to places that don't get it provided on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So if they have this like research of this knowledge right now, and then they can just build off of it, then what are they going to give to those countries that we're going to?
Yeah. Even going back to the statistic that you used earlier, saying that it says that it's undiagnosed, but that's even not even until they have already experienced some sort of fracture or fragility or some sort of thing. And it even says 80 to 90% don't even receive good treatment after that. So what do you do other than hoping to educate them before that, so that they can avoid that, Lord willing, that they have the access and the money to be able to do what they need, but because they don't even know about it, you're gonna have to learn somehow, because they won't even know that they have it, or they don't even know that they're supposed to take these things, so that they're not deficient, whether that's just they're naturally inclined to be deficient in certain things. Like I'm naturally, like I have an iron deficiency, I'm anemic. So, look at that.
I don't know if I'm fully anemic, but it's,
I probably have one on.
Where you get all like that, you stand up and then you get dizzy and like,
but yeah, like things like that, fortunately, I have great healthcare and I live in America and I have the access to it, and my parents and I are fortunate enough to have the money for that and insurance. But if they if we didn't know that, I wouldn't know that I need to take my iron every day.
Right.
That kind of thing. Which is also affects why 80 to 90% don't even get the right treatment.
It makes me think of the people who, I mean, I don't know about you, but I know a couple people who hate the doctor.
Yeah.
Yes. My roommate included. I was like, you are sick, go to the doctor. And she's like, oh yeah, I have pneumonia. Girl. But yeah, all those people who may or may not be undiagnosed is because some just don't, or like had family members who went and maybe something bad happened to them and they're like, I don't want to touch healthcare.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So maybe they've broken a bone or done like a possible fracture and didn't know about it. And then it didn't heal properly. Because you've seen other people and they're like, oh, what's that scar or something? They're like, oh, I broke this. I'm like, did you go to the doctor? No, I just kind of let it heal. And it's like all that. And it's like, that could be part of that population that doesn't really like know as much information as they should. So they could be doing all of that and have no idea.
I also feel like maybe like society plays a role in it. Like how now it's just like you Google this and it gives you like 1,000 different answers and you might think, oh hey, this is what it might be, and it's like something completely different. So it kind of goes into the not going to the doctor and finding out what's going on with you. And also might play a role in like younger people having vitamin D deficiency, just like spending less time outside because it's like the most natural way that you can kind of combat that deficiency. Is like if it's not like super bad, then it can be like, okay, we can just make a conscious effort to do the smaller things. But you wouldn't know that you needed to make that effort unless the problem was presented to you. So I guess it definitely does come back to just education.
Yeah.
To a certain extent.
What did you guys think about like going back to the actual study of it? Like this is off topic, but I broke my pinky like last
semester.
Yeah, you remember. But you remember how it took me forever to heal?
It took you a long time.
Guys, it's because I'm calcium deficient.
Whoa!
So I learned that at the doctor. I do know I take my vitamins now though, so that's great. But like just talking about, where did I write it down here? Just like how it like reduced the post-traumatic bone loss, because like for me I was thinking like I didn't take any like supplements or anything. My pinky took like forever to heal.
How did you break it? If I have to.
I was playing basketball. But
sick.
Yeah. But just like thinking about that, or like in high school when I had to be out the entire season because I broke my ankle, and like other girls broke their ankle and they were fine. Like you know, like I didn't know, like I just thought that like and
connecting
so
the dots.
Yes, and so obviously I had to go to the doctor. So like after multiple injuries and stuff, I kind of started noticing that it was taking me longer than other people to heal. So it was just like obviously this article I was like, okay, Emma's calling me out when she chooses this one.
I didn't even know you were calcium deficient.
Like literally now that you said that, I was thinking about my bone break, and I broke my scaphoid last year. Yeah, this bad boy.
And she will always remember it on a test.
That's true, guys. But it took 4.5 months to heal.
Oh my God.
I was in a cast for 4 months, and I'm wondering like, none of my doctors ever said anything about calcium, and maybe they just weren't educated in it. So.
And like the only reason I found that out about my pinky is because one of my mentors from back home, I like told her like she's the athletic trainer who helped me on my ankle, and also like I told her about like, this is just my pinky, like why is it taking so long to heal? Like it was embarrassing because I was wearing a little cast on my pinky, and I was like, it's been a long time. It was a long time, and she actually like is the one who told me about like, she was like, you probably don't have enough calcium in your diet, and you probably don't like, I take all kinds of vitamins, my iron,
vitamin D?
Yes, vitamin D. But it's just like, I didn't realize like how such a huge, like imagine you're like an older woman and you're already like kind of immobile, so you have to take these vitamins and stuff, but like, and you don't know, you think you're just old and you fall and you break, but like, because low-key that's what I thought, but like obviously I didn't even think about the deficiency and the osteoporosis and all of that, but that was just my little.
Yeah, I I never broke anything. I did learning class at a stress fracture is not a good.
I
It's
didn't know
just
that
a
until
toss.
she said that.
I know,
either.
because I was like, no, it hurts like I broke something. And they're
It
like, no,
hurts.
you almost broke something. You just went to the doctor before it actually broke. But I was severely premature when my twin brother and I were born.
You're a twin?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a twin.
Oh my gosh.
Wait,
We
that's
sit
so
right next
cool.
to each other. We've never talked about this.
I also have a twin brother. Sorry.
Older? Like, are you older?
I'm older by a minute.
I'm older by 2.
Oh.
But he doesn't go here. We'll talk about that later. We were 26 weeks.
Oh,
So
wow.
normally it's 40.
Yeah.
And so with that, we were like, I don't know, like that big, like the size of my hand. And so with that, I got the stress fracture, and I went to the doctor, and they were like, yeah, you need to take these pills. And I was like, what are you talking about? So I don't know if with that, if I was not premature, if I would have also
Make
had
a difference.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like, how many of those people could have been in my situation, or not even like 26, like 30 or whatever.
Yeah.
And they also have that deficiency just because they didn't get as much as like a full-term baby would. So I don't know if mine lasted as any longer as like yours was 4 months and everyone was like, I was in a boot for like 2 or 3 months. But it definitely like taking those pills. Now I did take them for a while and I stopped, so maybe I should bring back. But that's also like a consideration of like how much nutrients and stuff you get from your mom, and how that could affect if you just don't get as much as like a full-term baby.
Yeah.
Maybe doing multiple has something to do with it too.
Yeah, my mom also had like, we don't have twins in the family really, and my mom had us like at a later age in life, and so that like made her chances go up.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm a twin.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's
and he was
literally
bigger,
the
so
best
he
thing
probably
reason.
took my nutrients. So it's fine.
That's okay. I took my twins' nutrients.
That's funny. What part of like the materials and methods section, they have a whole bunch of different things that they did to be able to conduct the study and measure the results and outcomes and that kind of thing. Which part did you guys think was the most interesting? Like they looked at the gene expression of the fracture callus. They looked at the micro CT analysis scans. They did, a serum analysis. Also, the fact that there was surgery itself in it on mice was also really interesting. But
which they're like super small.
Yeah,
to
they're
do
not that big.
Yeah.
And also they like looked at lumbar vertebrae. I was like,
Yeah.
I would have never thought.
Yeah,
like,
why would
hey.
you look? Yeah.
yeah, which part kind of stood out the most to you guys from that section at least? Or what did you find most interesting, maybe?
I don't know. I definitely think the surgery's a big part of it because we've done a lot of steps to make, like now we have like robots where you stick your hands in and you're not even like touching the patient. But with that small of like an object to do surgery on, like how did they go about that?
That's a good question.
And like what are the tools that they use and stuff like that? Because you'd have to use like small tools to get in there and like all that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I saw something about like immunohistochemistry, and I just think anything with like, it has to do with like
morphometry, maybe?
There you go.
Yeah.
Those are hard. And anything with like the immune system, I'm just like, how did you immediately go into that? And what is immunohistochemistry?
Yeah.
And all of that.
Yeah, I was thinking about how they like induce the fractures and
Yes, that was
Right.
interesting to me.
because I was thinking like if they were ever to like try this study at a like human level, like how would they do it as opposed to doing it with mice? Like, I mean, obviously they're similar enough for them to like draw these conclusions and compare them to the people that the 3 million people. I mean, 3 billion people that are vitamin D deficient. So it made me wonder like if this was the process and they induced fractures and kind of had like a control group versus the deficient group versus the supplement group, which that also stood out to me. I would have kind of like thought they would have just done like a control and a deficient group, but they also did the other side of it where they were actually being supplemented, which I thought was really good because it's kind of like covering all of the bases, so it would be like a more complete study. but it just made me wonder, like, how would they do this if they were to do it with humans or even just another animal or.
Yeah.
I think all that is crazy as well. My favorite method was the QBEI, or the quantitative backscattered electron imaging. All of that stuff was just kind of crazy because I just think it's cool that they took like the bone samples and like put it in the resin, and like I don't know, just that whole process. I was like, this is crazy cool how they like scan the electrons with a microscope and all of that to find the calcium content in there. That's crazy. I don't know how you do that.
It's crazy to see like how many methods they went through to get such an accurate amount of data to put out there.
Yeah.
Exactly, and as you were saying that, it's so consistent. It's like we have to be like, this might be onto something. Like it's not like one's over here, one's over here, one's over here.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be something that could be fixed, but this is like, if you do this, it's actually like promising something. And I like how they did the supplements as well, because it doesn't lead to the question of, oh, well, is this supplement going to help me or not? Because they're like, well, if you see, it will. And so on like that. Because everyone, I feel like half the time you're trying to take those, there's a second guess. Like, is this actually going to help me? Am I just wasting my time? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
For sure. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna add, like, having like a solution rather than just, this is what's wrong. Like,
Right,
I did appreciate that, but continuing on.
I was just thinking back again on, and correct me if I'm wrong to clarify this, but it was all female mice that they used, correct?
I'm pretty
right?
sure.
Because they had to do the
Removal of the
ovaries.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, whatever the fancy word for it is. But it makes me think too, just about what would the study look like if they did it in males, because obviously there's so many genetic differences between males and females. Also just the fact that men naturally are built differently with, for the most part, more muscle, and they're typically taller, and like all of those different aspects of things.
That like plays a role in
Does
something.
that play a role in the deficiency? What would the study look like if they did both male and female and then compared them?
What would like the numbers be?
What would the
like,
numbers be? Would it be as consistent?
Yeah. I would definitely like if they would have done like, this is 3 billion, but it would have been like this many males, this many females. Because obviously it's going to be way different now that we're in 2025. Crazy. But like if they kind of just put it on a scale, so it was like, well, more women because they go through menopause or this and that.
Well, and even go ahead. Go. Even the part where they do have to remove the ovaries, like, and to make that the group that they're kind of looking at to compare it to women of that age. That's the way they did that for this group. How would they recreate something similar in the male mice that they would use? Because obviously they're not going to have ovaries.
I feel like even with that, I would want to see a difference in maybe the aspects of like what we have when we're younger, when we do have our ovaries, and like the difference when we go through that. Like what did the deficiency get worse, or someone who didn't have a deficiency, and then like the difference between someone who does, and then someone who has their ovaries out, something like that.
Like there's so many ways you can go about it, like testing versus.
Yeah, there's a lot more ways to like keep expanding the information.
Or like natural, like, oh, you just kind of got older, so you're not producing any more eggs, versus like having hysterectomy. Like,
exactly.
Does that make a difference? Or kind of like even with like having big removal surgeries like that, like are the supplements that they're giving these women who have hysterectomies, are they benefiting them so that they have the protection against developing osteoporosis? It makes me wonder about those type of things too.
I think, I don't know who said it, but someone was like, the differences, the boys and girls. We've been talking about this whole time.
Yes.
But I also think that, women have to go through menopause, and, obviously our hormones get imbalanced and all those things, and men constantly have the same, like, testosterone and all of that, like, throughout their life. Not these same levels, but, like, they never have
they don't go through
life
cycles.
they don't have a life-changing moment where that just gets taken from them. So I feel like
they have an easier life. I didn't say
I feel like they're like if we were to test a study on their deficiencies and like fractures and all of the osteoplastic activity, whatever, like I obviously feel like they would do better just because they don't go through something like menopause where everything just becomes unbalanced and your body has to reorganize itself, you know?
Yeah. My point on that is I don't know if y'all heard it, but you always hear like men die sooner than women because they're more like likely to do something like jump out of an airplane or something stupid or crash their car. But does that have something to do with like their regeneration of bones if they break more bones than women do? Or is that something that has to
That would
do
be an
with
interesting statistic
Right.
to look up. Do men break more bones than women?
Yeah. Guys, we just created a survey.
I bet they do. Survey!
I should walk around and ask boys and girls.
I know, I'm like,
how many bones have you broken? Have you broken any?
Yeah, how did you do it?
Yeah,
yes. We're making a survey. I think it'd be very intriguing, especially on a college campus.
Exactly.
My bone break was bad.
Yeah.
I've never broken a bone before.
Yeah.
I
How
just
did
sprained.
you break yours?
I was on a pull-up bar at a party and I did a backflip off of it.
Oh.
Ooh, because she's cool.
Ow.
She's cool.
But
No,
I
I
did
did
it on my hand and not my feet.
Ouch.
Anyway.
I don't know. I did something with my pinky, but I never really
And it
got
took
it
you
looked
a
at.
long time to remember.
But it was
Should've been
also with the
calcium.
basketball, so
Yeah,
Who
it
knows?
was so dumb. Yeah, but that's like only like the third bone I've ever broken so far.
third.
Ankle is crazy though.
My
Oh,
ankle,
ankle, yeah.
And my toe. That's right. Yeah.
Oh,
Doesn't
toes are
count.
fine. You're chilling.
I feel like I've broken all my toes.
But-
But anyway.
Yeah, it like it's crazy just because you took so long to heal. I also took so long to heal. How many people do you think like have no idea? Like I thought it was just because I'm like redhead or something. Like, like I'm not even gonna lie, because
There are real things.
there are.
No,
women,
there-
but,
yeah.
Like I
Anesthesia.
like I had like anesthesia. Like I have to get more anesthesia than some people. because I'm
I've
redhead.
heard different things
Yeah.
about that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I was like didn't know that. But
Education, man.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Just
saying. Just random
education
facts
is
you
important.
hear.
It's a need. It's a need.
It is a need, and it's
It's also kind of hard to just have like generalized stuff when there are like so many different mutations and just all the things of different people around the world. It's just
that's
It's
what I
hard
was
to know.
wondering. Sorry.
No, I was just saying it's hard to know if like you're not experiencing yourself. Like
So
you're a
much.
redhead, so you know that.
Yeah.
I am not a redhead, so I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like that's cool to know.
Well, like they also did like a gene analysis on the mice, so that's
yeah,
what I was
that
thinking.
section was
like,
really cool.
that's what I thought too. Like
Actually.
it's like just like the variations. To me, it's like it's so interesting. But yeah, we went right to it.
Yes. Like just the fact that so much goes into the analysis of this that they can also just the fact that the technology and the education and the knowledge exists that we can go so far as to gene expression
Yeah.
Like getting the exact.
is
I don't know, and, like,
so crazy.
Even reading like the first two sentences, they're like, oh yeah, we froze it in liquid nitrogen,
Yeah,
and then
what?
like pulverized it in a vibration. I'm like, how does your brain think of that and be like, we can get stuff from this? I'm like, I would just look at it under a microscope and be like, I got information.
But then they got good stuff.
Yeah.
yes.
It like shows the links of like what we know and like the different aspects of like what like you can probably find so much information and you're not even like looking like flipping over the red rocks.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I like how they went all the way down to the molecular level. Like started physical, went down to molecular. Like that's just
Yeah.
it proves that again, calcium deficiency is real and supplements are needed and it's beneficial.
No, and they did it really thoroughly. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't like you're reading this like, oh, there's a lot of open-ended stuff.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
It was very down to the point.
I definitely think this research has opened a lot of like doors for other research questions and just kind of like a continuation of this study of just vitamin D deficiency, calcium deficiency, osteoporosis, and I definitely do think it's gonna be something big in like coming years and just making sure everybody can make sure they're not deficient.
Yeah. Something for us to remember if the doctor says it, be like, oh, I read something about that.
I mean, like I'm definitely gonna use this in my future career because I'm
Yeah,
gonna be a
same.
PT. Like
Yeah.
I'm definitely.
I was
Yeah.
thinking about being an OBGYN.
Especially because you're doing
So.
repair and
Well, yeah, that's what I wanted to be like the step in front of that. I wanted to open my own gym, teach people how to work out properly. So I'm not getting
Preventative measures.
I'm not getting you
So they
out of a
don't-
job.
yeah, so they
but
don't
like
get to
if they break something, I'm like, oh, go to her. But I'm gonna
They'll
be like,
heal
don't.
faster.
I'd be like, don't break it by
Yes.
doing such and such. But then that's also I'm
Right.
trying to do the nutrition side of it, and I was like, well, if you combat it first with what you eat, because they did something
Yeah.
about like with the diets of the mice and everything. Like if you start there, maybe you could see like a difference.
Yeah.
It's also
So many aspects.
incredibly crazy to me that even starting after you've already experienced the fracture, like you can improve that. Like,
Yeah, that's what I thought
it's-
too.
yeah, like when you said that earlier, it really did like spark up
Like how that works in the
mind,
body's
like,
crazy.
Yeah. Supplements are important.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna have to go buy some.
Alright, well,
Yeah. Anybody else have anything else they want to say?
I think we nailed all the
That was
key
pretty.
points.
I do too.
Maybe we'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah. Take your supplements.
That's what we learned.
Bye.